discreet about it. Extra, extra, read about it. Say you wanna beef about it. We gon' come and see about it. Flexing ain't discreet about it. Extra, extra, read about it. Say you wanna beef about it. Find out nothing sweet about it. Flexing ain't discreet about it. Extra, extra, read about it. Say you wanna beef about it. We gon' come and see about it. Flexing ain't discreet about it. Extra, extra, read about it. Say you wanna beef about it. Find out nothing sweet about it. Look, mile like 3-6, pulled up, ski trip cold.
B.Woods on the Mic podcast, and we have a legend, an icon in the building. She's worked with everybody from Michael Jackson to Mary J. Blige to hosting Rap City to showing love to LA, blessing the airwaves, and just a legend of all legends, dancer extraordinaire. Get it, go ahead, get it, get it, get it, get it, get it. The one, the only Big Les. What's good with it?
What up? How you doing?
I'm great. I'm good. I literally haven't talked to you for years.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. And it's just like, it's so crazy too, because I met you at the Beat. And that was, and I think I knew who was your assistant? I think it was a dude named Alex.
Alex was my assistant, yep.
Yeah, and me and Alex went to Santa Monica College together. And then he was like, yo, I'm an assistant for Les and all this. And I was like, oh, what? And then that's how the little connection came. And Alex was a wild boy too.
I love Alex, so we have fun. We definitely had fun. So yeah. I was at the Beat like two different stages when it was 92.3 and then 100.3. So
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's super crazy because it's just like, yeah, the middays, and we're gonna get into it too, because I think like middays is so crazy. Because you were there before or after when Lala was there?
I was before. She actually took over my spot because that's when the station got sold to Radio 1. So they brought in their own people, and she had been with Radio 1 in Atlanta. So they wrote us out of, sent us our check from our contracts and whatever.
The whole thing. It was a whole thing. So yeah, so we gonna go back and then move forward to that part of the story, because there's definitely like a whole bunch of like intricate details to that. So we got to start from the beginning. Like the whole point of the podcast is obviously, and I know it's so generic to say give someone their flowers, but definitely you are a legend, and we got to definitely make that happen. I think it's important. I think what you've contributed, not just to radio obviously, but just to hip hop, to the culture, to women, to men. It's just like every time we turn on the TV, we see you, just your energy, your vibe is just crazy. You're such an inspiration. So I definitely want to know your story, your story from the beginning and just your journey. Because you were born, you're a New Yorker, and you just got back.
All day, every day, Queens, New York in the house.
Hey, and so you're a New Yorker, and so like your whole, because you do so many different things, right? So you're a host, you're a radio DJ, you're a dancer, you have so many different titles. So as a child, when you were coming up, like how did you get to kind of like evolve your talents, and how did you know, okay, this is the direction that I wanted to go? In terms of like your creative energy, like was there any moments when you, as a child, when you knew like, okay, this is what I want to do?
I've always known, there are people who like go to college and they take general studies or whatever, and they don't know. I've always known what my journey was, but that's because I've also had so many interests, and thank God I've had parents, or my mother, more importantly, who, there's some people who don't look at kids who have artistic talents. They'll just kind of like, move it aside, like you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be this, that, and the other. And my mother recognized that I physically was gifted and I academically was gifted. So I almost skipped a grade. I was in honors classes from like third grade all the way on. But I was also a tomboy. I was like one of the biggest tom girls on the block. Me and like a crew of 4 girls and like 10 guys. We would terrorize the neighborhood, climb trees, the whole bit. And my mom, being a nurse, put me in a gymnastic class at a YMCA next to her hospital where she works, so she could keep tabs on me, but still part of being a latchkey child in New York, which of course expresses why so many of us are so like fearless and free and independent at such a young age. But I took a trampoline class, and within like a week or two, the guy was like, she needs to be in a gymnastic class, she's really good. And literally she changed my facility, went to another Y, did gymnastics and was competing in national competition within a year. So did that, which is really like all I watched on TV. And there were barely any girls like me. Diane Durham was like maybe only one gymnast that kind of was a Black female,
Right.
but you know, the dance part kind of trickles in as being just a straight New Yorker. You hang out on a basketball court, you're surrounded by music all day. You go to the roller skating rink like most people did. So that's where like the dancing and the hip hop and all that other stuff kind of like infects your soul. And I used to be able to sneak into clubs at like 15 because I didn't look my age. So
Right.
in doing gymnastics all day, every day, I would sneak into the clubs, and then I would see like, then it was like the Rocksteady crew and everybody battling, and you barely saw any girls. Cut to, now it's time for me to go to college. I get a full gymnastics scholarship to Springfield College in Massachusetts. Knock on wood, I got into every school that I actually petitioned for and got a gymnastics scholarship and a academic scholarship. So that's the blessing.
Wow.
And so I went to Springfield and Mass, and you know, during like your travels and hopping on the road and going to this one's, you know, home school, whatever reunion, whatever, you always just dip back to New York on the weekends. And that's when like the Paradise Garage was popping, which is strictly house music. And I fell in love with house music. So I'm more of a house dancer and house music lover than I am hip hop. But junior year in college, you only get 4 years to compete under scholarship rules. But I got into a 5-year master's program for sports medicine. And I'm like, 4 years, what am I gonna do my last year? My whole life is gymnastics. Like, I need to dance. I gotta go Broadway. And
all
that's
day.
Music videos started to come out. Like, so I'd be in my dorm watching like Jody Watley and Janet Jackson and like Vanessa Williams and Karen White and all these people music videos. I was like, I could do that. I could dance. And I was like, I'm out of here. I'm out. And so my mother still to this day is like, and I'm kind of sick that I just, you know, 8 months later, I could have had my master's degree, but you know, instead God blessed me in other ways. And the first audition I got, which was an off-Broadway musical with myself and Wyclef at the time, a couple other people, I, you know, booked it. And then I booked everything else right after. I went on a major tour with Keith Sweat, BBD, Johnny Gill, called the Triple Threat Tour.
And it's so crazy because like when you go back, so say, because you go through this thing where like, there is no like your family doesn't necessarily have like an entertainment background, right? So you're just kind of picking up everything. And so going back to even the audition process or even knowing what the process was, how did you go about like even finding auditions or having people help you? What was that process like for you?
There's no help. You literally are starting from ground zero, right? We don't have the internet. The only thing for me was I'm watching music videos and, you know, they would put the caption, MCA Records, the director's name, blah, blah, blah. So now you got to call 411, call, get the information for MCA Records, talk to MCA, you get the receptionist at the front desk, you find out what department handles videos. Oh, there's a music video department or artist development department. So you retain all this information, you get names, blah, 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 you send in video, whatever. It really didn't work like that for me. I happen to come from an era where all the recording artists and all of the label heads hung out at the clubs in New York, right? It wasn't all that extra VIP shit. Everybody was just out. New York cats just dance. And before any of these, a lot of these artists had their deals, they'd be on the open mic over there and I'd be in the dance cypher, you know, doing backflips. And so then the label heads or the artists would come to me directly like, yo, you need to be in my video, da 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 da. And that's really how I got a lot of my work.
And in that process too, like what was like what was that first audition like? Were you always confident with your skills, or walk me through that first process? Were you nervous a little bit? Do you think like, was there any doubts that, you know, because you at this point, you're obviously like with celebrities and you're making an active effort to take it to that next level. So what was your psyche during that first audition process?
It's crazy because coming from a gymnastic background, but a successful one where I was regional champ, state champ, national champ, like all those things, you know, almost all American, like, so you're used to crowds. Gymnastics is one of those sports where you're damn near half naked in the leotard your whole life since you're 10 years old, being put on display and being judged. So you have to have confidence in your skill. There's a little fear every time that you go up for an event, like, right? It's the big trick that has to come. So you kind of approach it that way. You learn how to like, just breathe and do what it is that you do. And for me, I attack it like doing a floor routine, like, or a vault, right? You go in, you got 60 seconds or 15 seconds to do it, land it, stick it. Like it's that kind of rationale for me. So even though it was dance, and my freestyle was strong, it was kind of like the nerves come from wanting it so bad, right? Nobody wants the rejection. You want the job. And so that's where the nerves come from. But it wasn't nervous about anybody being better than me or the audition process itself.
Right. So it's kind of like a muscle memory thing that's happening, which
Sure.
is dope. And then so now you're in the audition process, you call the record labels, you're doing all the footwork for yourself. That's like a different type of grind. And now you book your first opportunity to go on tour. And you go on tour with Wyclef is the first time?
No. That was just the play, that the off-Broadway play that was in New York.
Okay.
No, a friend of mine who was one of the girls who danced in the circle had danced for Key Sweat before. And so she had me come down and audition. And I did like one little run through and they were like, all right, you're hired. So I literally went from being a Key Sweat dancer on the tour with BBD and Johnny Gill, and then going into like, I would meet a lot of artists backstage, right? We didn't have that whole 911 protocol and nobody would come backstage. Like every celebrity and their mother would always be backstage or they'd be front row. So as you're dancing, you can see like Heavy D or somebody being like, you, and I need you, talking to you about, I need to be back. And sometimes you don't know if they're trying to match or if you're trying to work. But for me, it was a combination of both. But a lot of times, like, I think I went to Dance for Guy right after. And that's because Damien and Aaron came to me at the dressing room when we got off stage talking about, you need to come dance for me. So I literally jumped from one tour. They happened in legs. From one tour, they offered me more money. So I jumped with them. And then, tour after tour and project after project. And so people, because I was always in the front, like with music videos as a dancer, initially assumed that I was the head choreographer. And choreographers at that time, some of them would come in talking about, okay, I need an 8 count. It's like, wait a minute, why are we doing your 8 count? You don't want to get paid. Right. And so I just really kind of took that assumption. And when somebody said, do you choreograph? I was like, yes, because for me, choreography was me designing floor routines, right? The dance elements with the gymnastics and stuff. So yeah, I can choreograph. And so I said, yeah, and Mary J. Blige just kind of happened to be the first one.
Mary J. Blige, and I want to get to Mary J. Blige, but you said something that was super interesting too, because you had so many dope relationships, and at the time it's like super male vibey type of situation, and you said you don't know if they trying to mac, and you don't know if they trying to holler or they about their business. And so as a young girl that was a young woman that was doing her thing, like, how did you navigate that space? Especially, you got Heavy, you got all these big name people. Like, was there because you were a psychology major, right? So
I was no.
Oh, okay.
No, exercise physiology and sports medicine, athletic training. So I was in that space.
Okay, got you. So how did you navigate all the stars trying to holler? Like, was it exciting, or was it just like, okay, how did you deal with it? Because everybody has such a great respect for Les. So how did you navigate it? So because a lot of times brothers, they sensitive if you don't give them energy. So what was that like?
Sensitive is an understatement. Egos crushed, and they make you pay for the fact that you said no. So trust me, I know what that feels like, and I still feel it now to this day when I see guys that I've said no to who have corner offices at Rock Nation or whatever label, and they be like, "Yeah, what's up?" Trying to dangle their little credits in front of me, and if I ask for help, they don't want to help now because, oh, remember when you said no to me? No play, no problem, kid. I'm gonna still find my way in. But I think just being New York savvy for one. Coming from strong women, 2, 3, I'm not going to ever do anything to disrespect my mother or my grandmother. 4, me being like, I'm not going to shit where I eat, right? You write my check, we're not going to have any kind of relationship. And then you see whoever you want and I get all emotionally involved, but yet you can fire me or, decrease my pay. Like that would never happen. So, and there's just too many political things that happen when you start messing with the artist that you're working for. So I was never going to be that chick. I hate being the girl when you walk into the rooms like, yo, she slept with so-and-so. Now, don't get me wrong. I did the dirt. But it was never anybody who signed my check. So, you got to do your homework to find out what my list looks like. But I just know how to navigate it in a professional space. And for me, it was more important to have that integrity about the dance and the work and to be the best dancer and that kind of a thing. And I knew anything else would fuck it up. So,
yeah, no, it's all good. So you can say fuck shit. It's all good. I'm a professional cursor also. So so now you're in a space where you're navigating the business, you understanding the administrative side, you knowing how to navigate it just on dealing with the artists, because I think that's just an art in itself, right? Just being in the business, like they don't teach you that in college. It's just how to navigate the politics of the business, just working with other folks. And so you're getting that education. So now you're doing your thing with Mary J. Blige. And so what was that experience? Because like the like these are iconic videos. How did you like, what was the experience with you and Mary's relationship? How was that built? What happened?
It was magic. You know, Puff and I have known Puffy and I have known each other a long time, right? He was a kid in clubs as a dancer, and then we kind of would navigate in that space. So I've known him since we were all just club kids and stuff. And then I started doing a lot of work for Uptown with like Guy and Father MC and all this other stuff. So he knew what it is. He was like, yo, Les, and it's like, you know, money is how they talk. Like, let need you. I got this new artist. She is you. You are her. I need you to bring some of that sexy street shit. Da, 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 da. So I was like that. So Mary and I met, and literally instantly we felt like we had been friends since elementary school. And, you know, she'll always say that I worked her ass really hard and taught how to dance, but it was just, the hard part was just getting her out of her shyness and getting her comfortable on stage. But all New York girls, all of us around the way girls got that bop, we got that bang, we speak the same language. So it wasn't really hard. And, you know, she was comfortable with the crew of girls that I had. And, you know, we became really, really close. We shared a lot of intense growing pain moments, because it was like, there were times where we would hear her record on the radio, and yet she was still living up in the Yonkers projects. You know, I'm a hungry ass dancer, and I'm still like trying to find my way, get money and all this other stuff. So we kind of grew up together around the same time, but working with her was dope, you know, Miami and Real Love. And then we got nominated together, like, which was really dope for some awards. And so it was a good time. And I hated having to leave, but you know, I got an offer to be with Bobby Brown at the time, and she was still in the promotional stage. They hadn't booked a tour yet. So there were so many uncertainties, and I hadn't given up my dance career. I was still doing both. So I was like, well, I gotta go. This is Bobby Brown. I gotta go.
Right. And what were you doing with Bobby?
I was one of Bobby's dancers and choreographers. So it was me, Fatima choreographed. Yeah, we would mix up some of the work. So.
And what were some of the videos? Because Bobby, you know, Bobby is that guy. I was listening to Bobby Brown today.
Yeah, I did the Bobby's Back tour with who was it? TLC was on that tour, I think, and R. Kelly was on that tour. I forget, something big like that. But yeah, choreographed the Humping Around tour. I mean, the Humping Around video. I'm the chick in the cage, and the one you see doing the handstand at the end. The Getaway tour, where we're all in military, and then I do this backflip on this high podium kind of a thing. And then I did Good Enough. I went to Hawaii for Good Enough. I don't know if any of the stuff that I did made the footage stuff. So.
And then your relationship with Bobby, like, what was that like? What was his energy? What was his energy with you? And what did you learn with Bobby? And did he give you any good advice?
Oh, he was crazy. I was during Bobby's crazy stage. You know, there's a lot of things I won't say, just, you know. But I got really close to him and Whitney and the whole family. And it's understandable to see the stress and stuff that he's endured based on the people that were around. You know, everybody's been pulling from him since he was 9-10 years old, right? Whenever New Edition came out. You know, you hear it from NBA players, you hear it from Oprah, the family, and everybody always got their hand out, right? Like they want a piece, and you have, as an artist, there's no break of you having to, you know, stop telling people no, or you feel guilty or whatever. So it was a lot, but he was really close with the dancers. Most artists are always close with the dancers. They tend to gravitate towards us cool kids because we just about the creativity and doing our thing. We don't really want nothing from them, you know?
Yeah, and that's a dope thing, just because you guys feel like you guys are all on the same team, and that makes a huge difference in what type of things happen creatively. And you've done the other iconic videos. We got to talk about Michael Jackson, the man, the myth, the legend, just like yourself. What was that? What was that experience like with the Remember the Time video and working with Michael?
It was. First of all, we didn't hear about, and we as in like there were about 15 of us dancers in New York who heard about the audition like on a Wednesday night. And the audition was like that Saturday, and I was broke, like, Mom, I need money for this plane ticket. I'm telling you, I can book the job. Please just get me to LA. And of course, she's looking at me crazy. I'm fresh out of college. I had to move back home for a little bit, but I'm like, Mom, I'm telling you, I can book this job. So all of us found our way to LA. And even though Fatima and I had been friends at the time, she was very clear that she was choreographing, but of course, John Singleton had the last say. And so even before you start, you get like an encyclopedia-sized contract. Don't look at Michael, don't talk to Michael, don't ask about bubbles, like just all kinds of rules and regulations, you know. And then we go and rehearse for like 2.5 weeks. We don't rehearse with Michael until like a day or two before we're getting ready to shoot. So then when Michael comes in, he does a routine for us. His is like pop, 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 hit, pop, pop. We was like, oh, that's
and what's it like? Like, this is Michael Jackson is still Michael Jackson. Like, people stop and look at Hollywood and Highland. They look at the Michael Jackson impersonator and Stop Traffic. So what's going through your mind, like seeing, you know, this legend? Like, what's happening in your psyche right now?
Mama, I made it. Like, for real. Like, how did this happen? Like, oh my God. And then the part when we actually get to Universal Studios, you really are walking onto the lot that you've only seen on TV. You're not there as a tourist to take a tour. My name is on the dressing room. My name's on the clothing racks. It's like, oh shit, I actually belong here. Like, you know, and then to be 2 feet from Michael, and then as much as they tell you don't talk to the artist is hanging out with us. And then you hear Michael curse like, yeah, fuck that man. And you be like, oh.
Like, Michael curse.
You're like, wait, what?
Damn.
You know, at some point you just realize, including myself, it's like, it's just the job and the gift. But everybody bleeds the same way, they pee the same way, their pockets a little fatter. Sure, everybody has a special light on them when they walk into the room, like you just kind of feel that energy and you know that they're touched by an angel, so to speak. But he was cool, like the whole time. But working on set like that, remember, Magic Johnson was in it, so half the NBA was there all the time. Iman was in it, so half the like supermodels on the planet was showing up on set all the time. We didn't have phones, but every day it was John Singleton had just done Boys in the Hood, so all the actors, everybody was on.
Ice Cube, everybody was up there.
Everybody came. Everybody, Eddie Murphy, comedians came. Everybody, it was a who's who of who. And I just was kind of surprised because you just never know who's watching you, right? My mother would always be like, you got to do your best because you never know. So to hear people be like, yo, Big Les, and yo, Rap, like that, but I hadn't done Rap City yet. So it was just kind of Les. I wasn't really big. Well, I guess I was, but it was a little bit of both. But people actually knowing who I was, you'd be like, oh shit.
So who, in that moment in the Remember the Time video, like who is that one person where you're like, oh shit, they know who I am?
Well, Magic did. He had come to a concert. I think we were on tour with Guy. And he had come backstage at the concert. I have a picture too. Oh, it's in my apartment in New York, where I actually put my foot on his shoulder, and we take a picture together. He's so damn tall, so he still has to bend down a little bit, but I'm like fully extended on his shoulder. So I have a picture of that. So then to see him on set and for him to remember was just like, oh, he remembers, you know?
That's dope. He's an LA icon. So now we'll Remember the Time set. So now you're doing the auditions, and now you get that. I don't know if it's a phone call or whatever. What's the moment like when you actually, they say, yes, you're going to be a part of this project?
Well, we knew that day because all of us had flown in. We really didn't. I was staying at Fatima's house, but a lot of the dancers were staying with other dancers. Like nobody knew. And then John Singleton was like, he knew most of the dancers. He knew most of our work. They had danced from Mariah and all these other people or whoever. And so they were like, I want all of y'all. So they created an additional budget. They gave us housing. They gave us per diem, like shit that wasn't even planned. John Singleton was like, I need all of them in my video. So he just worked it out because he was so in love with the work that we had done. And when he saw the audition and the masses of us, he was like, yo, that's so-and-so and so-and-so. Like he knew. So he just wanted us to be down with the team. And we became really, really, really good friends after that.
And that's dope. And so at this point, and I want to ask you about Michael too. So at this point, you're with the who's who of Hollywood. Does your perspective of the trajectory of your career change at all? Does your plans get bigger, or do you like, all right, what's next after this? What are you thinking at this point? Like, because this is the peak of everything. Where in the moment that you're in this space, where do you see your career going at this point?
Well, as a dancer, you're always looking for the next job anyway, right? Because we didn't have unions then. There's no steady gig or whatever. So even when you're on one tour, you're already looking. Well, the tour ends in 4 months. Where am I going to go? Who's available? What can I make rehearsals? What videos are being shot? Can I dip out on the weekend while we're on tour and we have 3 days? Like you never stop working because it's all about the work and the access to the artist. So, you know, thinking about trying to get on tour with Janet, but what had happened was John Singleton had put 4 of us with Janet. And so we ended up moving in with Janet's house, which is a story I really haven't told yet. And I'll kind of only give you a little bit of it. I'll save it for my documentary and stuff. But 4 of us moved in with Janet to get her ready for, what was the movie she did? Poetic Justice.
Okay.
But she hadn't really been around homegirls and all that other stuff. And so with Janet, we lived in Malibu for like 2 or 3 months, and we were dancing all day. We were hanging out at the clubs. We'd be in a dance studio by day, whatever the case is and stuff. And I thought I was going to go on tour with her, but another round of Bobby's tour came up, and who else? Another tour or something happened for me, and she wasn't ready yet. So I had to go make that money. So I ended up missing her tour, but stayed on tour, I think, with Bobby for a while.
Oh, that's crazy. And what's your relationship with Janet now?
Oh, it's all love when I see her. But that's the one box I haven't been able to check to do something on film with her. You know, like we have our stories and our moments in our club history, but I want to do a project where you can be like, Janet, check. There it is. You know?
And have you had discussions about that, making it happen?
No, I haven't seen her in a while. So hopefully, you know, if they can pull some of us out of retirement, that's the thing, is everybody feels like, oh, they still don't have it, but I'm still backflipping and trapezing and all kinds of things.
Which is crazy. Do you consider yourself retired? Because I think that's kind of like what society puts on people. If you don't claim it, then you can still do it.
I think because it's been so long since I've done a dance project, because I've evolved into so many other elements of this business. If I could find a stage project, like a theater project that I could do, and hopefully my body can handle like all those shows. I think it's like 8 shows a week or something, which I think I could still handle at this point. But no, I'm not retired. I'm just, it's in my arsenal. So, you know,
claim that.
Of course, I'm trying to move into action film, like me looking at this whole new Viola Davis and the new movie. And I'm like yelling at my agent, like, why didn't I even get an audition to be in there with all those female warriors? Like, that is the one thing on my box I have not checked. And I have dreams of always being like the next Pam Grier. And I'm like, listen, while I can still flip, Lord, please. You know,
and the thing is, it's a dope time now, because it's like that transition where, you know, Black folks is getting opportunities to do projects, and there's more spaces right now. So I think that's sick. So now you in the space, you were, and real quick, did he tell you something that you remember that stuck with you? Did you ever have a conversation with Mike? Like, even it was like, yeah, let's go to the, you know, snack machine, grab me some Snickers, something like, you ever had a Michael situation, a Michael moment?
I wish I could say I did, but no, it was always a group situation with him. And it was just fun and jokes and stuff like that. It was real lighthearted though.
That's dope. So now you go to, how did the Rap City transition happen?
Madeline Woods had her show Video LP at the time. And so she called me to come down and perform on the show, and then get the couch and have a conversation with her. So as we're speaking, the producers upstairs recognize that I know 90% of the artists that are in their video rotation. I've worked with them, I've toured with them, I have personal access. Once you spend 3, 4, 5 months of rehearsal, you know, and then on tour, you're on the bus, you know, makeup, there's no wigs, so you're around their kids, their family, their uncle, their cousins, like you become part of the family. So there's so much more information I have that the general public doesn't have. And so they were like, do you want to audition for Rap City? I was like, sure. So right after I did the interview with her, they took me down the hall, and I was like, well, let's do it. So me, and what's crazy is Kenny Burns, Mr. Atlanta, ended up auditioning with each other. Unfortunately, at the time, he didn't get it, but they got me, you know, and my producers, thank God for Keith Paschal and Sunita Brooks, still had to kind of fight for me, because at that time, other than Dee Barnes, who had done Pump It Up, there weren't a lot of women in hip hop who had voices.
Right.
And they were just like, we don't know. And then they were all stuck on the, like, what she looks like. You know, us brown skinned babies always get the hard end of the stick. So,
right.
But thank God for Keith and Sunita were like, no, let us shoot a couple of shows with her, blah, blah, blah. And thank God, because I had all these relationships with the labels who were like, nah, you need to go be interviewed by Les, because I had known a lot of these artists, again, before they got their deals. So, you know, I was able to start with Prince Dejour, who ushered me in. I think we were in like Jacksonville or some, like, it was almost like a Freaknik, but it was like, or Spring Bling or something it was. Their summer, you know, spring break kind of thing. And got to do Outkast for the first time. I think Lords of the Underground were there. Were the Fugees out by then? I'm not sure, but I did some of their first for Rap City and for myself. So, and then they just kept me on, and I ended up being there like 7 years and becoming a producer and stuff toward the end. So. Yeah,
that's incredible, because like that format is not around anymore, and I think that format would still work. And what you said, I think, is important too. Is just like having somebody that's attached to the culture, interviewing people makes a huge difference to what you get. And I think that's part of the reason why shows like that actually work. It's just like, you just can't put people in there. Well, they they have a certain vibe, but but they don't have an actual connection. I think that's what made the show really dope. Like for you, what was like some of your most iconic interviews on Rap City?
Oh boy.
The ones that you liked, the ones that you enjoyed, and the ones that like shut it down.
No, listen, I enjoyed all of it. I had the best part of Rap City because we did all of our shows on location. So we're in, I go to the West Coast for the first time, and Dub C pops my lowrider cherry. So I'm in a lowrider with him.
Hey, West.
And I'm in a helicopter with Razkaz. I'm on jet skis with like Exhibit. Then we go to like Jamaica, and I'm, interviewing all over the island with Beanie Man and Buju Banton and Patra at the time. You know what I'm saying? And the island with Rap City. So that was so much love. You go to like Houston, and then you hang out with like Rap A Lot Records, and you don't realize that Scarface and Little J live on ranches and they shoe their own horses. And so it was all of this other stuff of being exposed to cribs before there was cribs and what people really do. So talking to some of the older artists like EPMD or Ice-T, they always are full of knowledge. DJ Premier, like they don't just be there, you know what I'm saying? We just keep it real, you know what I'm saying? Because there was a lot of that era too. You had to be like, no, I need an answer.
Yeah.
And with them, they give you more than you need, which is great. They got stories.
And did they drop any game on you that you took with you in terms of what?
Well, not for me, because I was, but they dropped knowledge about record deals.
Gotcha.
Knowing your paperwork, that kind of a thing, So.
Yeah, and that's all. How about Tupac, Biggie? What was your relationship? Did you get any interviews with them on Rap City?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's funny because of the stuff that we did with Tupac early on, the audio was so bad that because we were in the middle of a club, so we didn't really get to use it because you couldn't hear a lot of our conversation. But we always remained friends. We did.
What was the conversation about?
Well, we just. Like I felt like because he was so intellectually smart and so artistic, and because he was a pretty boy, that he always had to put up a front to act like he was harder than people thought. And and he sort of agreed with me in a sense, but he's like, yo, you just got to be prepared to protect your neck. But again, remember, he comes from the upbringing of, Afeni Shakur and all that was. So the thing, so, it's protect your neck at all costs. So you don't know what it is to relax or let your guard down with people coming at you, whether it's from a racist perspective or whether it's for a money gain or just having access to you. So his guard was always up. And Biggie, just to talk to him about his transition, like him and Jay-Z, from like street knowledge to like business knowledge, like that whole transition of being able to like whatever your bag and your pounds or whatever to making that work as a science music industry and going in and negotiating your deals and all that political shit. So I learned a lot from them in that sense. Who can say they had got financial advice from Tupac and Biggie? Life advice, which is crazy. And so you also had, like, being in these positions, it gives you a different perspective on things too. I even saw online you had a interview with Aaliyah and R. Kelly. And so at that time, what was the vibe like, just being in those situations, and then seeing how things progressed, like with that situation? Well, it's interesting because when I had toured with Heavy D, R. Kelly was on that tour. It was like Heavy D, Warren G, Coolio, R. Kelly, like there was a bunch of us. So we had all been on the road for months and months and months. So privy to a lot of things that my eyes saw, privy to a lot of information that my ears heard, whatever. But the politics at BET was all about like, make sure you do this interview. Don't ask about and Z. We need him to perform at such and such, whatever. You know how it is in radio. They need you to perform at the Christmas party, so we got to play the song a certain amount of rotations. It's the same political thing. Somebody's coming up with a brown paper bag and all of that. Don't talk, don't ask. But myself and Brett Walker, who did the interview, we were like, listen, if it's not us, it's going to be somebody else. And we're going to get beat over the head if we don't ask it. So I kind of tried to ask it in a very lighthearted way. As you can see, I'm like jokingly like, so what's really going on with the matching outfits and blah, blah, blah kind of a thing. But, there was artist development then. There was PR development. So they were prepared for their answers, but they knew what they were doing coming onto that show to toy with the audience in that case. Like, right? That's what it is. Give you, what is it? Like sex sells, so drama sells,
Right. No, that's crazy too, because it's just like you get so many canned answers from people, and it's just like you want to prod and kind of see what's going on. At the same time, it's just like you don't want to be in folks' business, but this is what folks is, really wanting to know. And so the Rap City experience is obviously just it's crazy. And then one of the biggest things that we see, you're on television every single day. I was in the hospital maybe a couple weeks ago, and I was just like watching Living Single, like an 80 episode run. I was in there, just I couldn't move, but I was watching my Living Single, and I may know your Under the Bridge routine by heart. Like it's just that's how many times I didn't see that damn thing. So tell us about how did that all come about?
It's so crazy that
and I know you probably told this story 10 million times. Make it 10 million and one.
It's all good. Listen, the fact that, hey, you got to keep the history alive. I got to tell it, just like artists got to sing their favorite song
right.
9,000 times.
This is one of the hits right here.
I'll take it. I will take
one
it.
One of the hits.
I was on tour, I think, with, who was on tour? Bobby or Heavy at the time. And I knew that Spike Lee was shooting Malcolm X, and he was working with directographer Otis Salid. Otis had done School Days, Good in Black Hair, and I want to be alone. Like, he had done all of that iconic stuff. And I was like, oh. And then I found out that they were doing Lindy Hop, which is my favorite style of dance. Like, that's when women were in dresses and athletic and backflipping and sliding through legs and all that stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I gotta be in this. So when I get off tour, I go to one of their rehearsals. One of my friends was dancing and then introduced me to Otis, but I couldn't jump in because they were too far along. And he was like, it's too late. I can't have you come in or whatever. And I was like, I'll work extra hard, but he couldn't do it. And I ended up doing extra work on the film, but not in the dance scene. So somehow he, I guess, had known of my work or whatever before, but didn't let on at the moment. And then like a couple of weeks later, I get a phone call and he's on the other line. I'm like, Otis, who? Otis, wait, what? And so he just says to me, he's like, listen, I have this idea. I'm not hired for the gig, but I really feel like if I shoot this concept using you and you're the only person who could do it, I think we could land the job. So I was like, anything to work with you, whatever. And so we spent like the whole day underneath the Brooklyn Bridge and backflipping and all this stuff on cobblestone, like all day. And so there's only one version where I think you see a front flip, but you don't see any of the other gymnastics. But the main version was obviously had no flips in it. And then at the end, it was just me being exhausted because we had been going like 8-10 hours strong. And so when I see it, I was like, damn, there's no flips. But that's the genius of Otis Salid, is that you didn't need it. You just need all the other nuances to tell the story and the way he, the edit came out. So I just didn't realize that, 20 something years later, this thing is still have a life of its own, especially with social media. I get people who remake that version of the dance,
right,
font and all the graphics, and send it to me and tag me in it all the time, as well as like all of my Rap City episodes that I even forgot about, which is great. So now I have it in digitized form and I don't have to like do the work, but I'm like, all right for a new generation hopping on board.
It's really, because it's crazy, because a lot of the stuff is repurposed. When you turn television is Martin, Wayne's, but like it's Living Single. That's like a majority of content now. So when the actual dance, when it hits Living Single, like how does that, when that Living Single theme song, it's a part that's like a Christmas carol for Black people. So like, how does that change your world when, are you humming the song every day? What's going on with the?
No, not anymore. But I hear it's funny when I go out, because that was the weirdest thing, is because before Rap City's the thing that made people know what my name was versus my silhouette, right? My silhouette as a dancer or familiarity as a dancer was nobody knew my name. It's because they didn't have it on the credits and whatever. That's that girl who dances, right? So then it became, when Rap City happened, oh shit, that's the girl who dances. Because then I would talk about her or being there were artists. And so then when Living Single, came out, the fact that my silhouette was recognizable. I could be in McDonald's. I remember one time I was in McDonald's and somebody happened to look back. Aren't you the girl who dances? And I was like, how do you know that? Because your show or whatever, the way I was built. And it's crazy is because I used to have such a complex about my physicality because I was so big at a younger age and doing a sport where everybody's like 90 pounds and 5 feet tall. And here I am 5'6" and not 90 pounds. So,
right.
So it's been a blessing for me to find comfort in that along the way.
And yeah, no, that's definitely one of those moments, and it works, and it's something like literally every day. I can turn on TV right now, and you're gonna be under that bridge as we speak. So what was your relationship with because living single? Because I'm a TV junkie. I during that time I would be watching New York Undercover, Martin, Living Single, The Simpsons, the news afterwards, and I would close it out with MASH. So for you, what was your relationship with Martin? Because you got that iconic moment on the Def Comedy Jam.
It's so crazy that you just mentioned shows that I tried to really become a part of. Like Living Single would not let me audition. Even I was like, I could be the neighbor upstairs making all the noise,
Right.
dancer, and kind of like introduce me that way. They wouldn't even let me audition.
Why not?
I have no idea. And at that time, you know, you kind of, in order to be taken serious as an actor, you had to let dance disappear. Like the same thing with J-Lo. You had to forget she was a fly girl to see her as an actress. And so they weren't letting women really be talented at that point unless you did Broadway. And then New York Undercover, I actually got casted to be Malik Yoba's wife on the show. Contract, the whole bit. We were supposed to start off table read the next day. And then suddenly they call my agent. They're like, they're making another decision at this moment. So I was devastated. So I never watched an episode of New York Undercover till this day. I couldn't even tell you who they casted. So even when Martin came on, I think Def Comedy Jam came after Martin started. So I think I wouldn't have been on that show. I don't even know if it was on the same time, but it was shooting in LA and I was probably working mostly in New York. But Martin had opened up on tour with us with Guy. So that's how I knew him. He was a stand-up opening up the show while we were on tour. So I knew him before Def Comedy, so that's why he felt like, come over here. I didn't know why he was calling me up. So between that and the Teddy Carpenter episode, and Teddy had opened up for us when I danced with Keith Sweat, he was the opening act. But I didn't know that joke either. And I didn't know that either one of them was gonna call me up, so.
Yeah, so yeah, it's just like one of like that's like a dope like even YouTube that's one of the like that Martin in that realm he was on fire, and that moment was just that's an iconic Def Comedy Jam moment, and you were part of it.
People forget that I actually danced on the show. Like when you see the running credits, myself, Josie, who was a fly girl, Flex Alexander, we were all dancers on that show, and the credits went up every episode.
No kidding. I did not know that. I did not know that. That's insane. And so you're doing a lot of the television stuff. You're getting the different gigs, and then you make the transition. Then you're going to the radio. So I'm a LA guy, and the radio portion of it, I didn't know a lot of it. So how did you get to? You were at 92.3 The Beat, and you were at 100.3 The Beat. How did that even from the East Coast to the West Coast? Because out here it was very much like a lot of the jocks came from the Bay, the John Londons. Julio was out here in Linwood, Theo from the Bay, Kevin Nash from the Yay. How did that all happen?
I started in New York at Hot 97. Wendy Williams, ironically, Wendy Williams got put on probation for a week because of her mouth or whatever. So they had me come in and do the whole week. And so by the end of the week, they offered me weekends. And then within 2 weeks, they offered me mornings with Dr. Dre and Ed Lover in New York. A couple of months later, they said a position opened up with Power for Big Boy's morning show, and that he was looking for a co-host. So I had to go out there. I was shooting some stuff for Rap City. So I went and sat in with him, and they were like, oh my God, the vibe was so great. So then that's how I started on his show. I was probably there for a little less than a year. And then 92.3 The Beat, their program director, Michelle, would love to have you middays. And there was a loophole in my contract where I was able to like make the move, and the zeros were right. So I did. So I was middays at 92.3 The Beat for a couple of years. And then I think I left. Did I go back on tour or I did something and then came back to 100.3 The Beat? And I was also middays, and then came back a third time when Steve Harvey became morning show, and I ended up being his entertainment reporter with Pee Wee and Shirley on that show.
Yeah, it's just it's a different vibe out here in LA, and the thing that I was so entrenched into the whole LA radio thing with the Beat that I didn't even realize that you were on the air with Big Boy for that year.
If you Google it, I mean, if you go to YouTube, you'll see. I think the episode with Mystical's on there because we did a 2-shot. That's why I was really producing the show. So I was producing it for Rap City as well as for The Beat. You'll see Mystical, you'll see there's something else that I think is there. Was Snoop there? There's a couple of episodes where you'll see me and Big Boy when Big Boy was Big Boy.
Right.
Um, Fuzzy was on the show, and yeah, all of us. So there's some episodes running around.
And what was that energy like? Because this is the biggest thing. Like LA radio now, it's just that you don't see Black women on morning shows in LA. It just don't be happening in urban radio. It's just like, okay, cool.
I understand that. I get that Los Angeles is a predominantly Latino market, but I don't understand with the music that we play and make that we are not part of the face of some of these stations. So, you know.
Facts. And so when you were with Big, like what was your and Big Boy's relationship like? Was it just an in studio, we cool, or did you guys kick it outside the studio?
Oh no, we're still cool to this day. It was all jokes and laughter, and it was all good time. I think for me, where I struggled was because the market at that time was so Latino that our conversations became real Black, and they probably felt like, okay, we need you to like lighten up a little bit with all the Blackness, because you know our Latino listeners are, you know how all that can become a little muddled. So it just happened as they were having that discussion with me, I was being courted from across the street. So
got you. And so for you, it was just more like, okay, the paper's just better at the beat, and I want to leave. What was Big's reaction to you shaking Power?
no, you know, it's always interesting because you never know what's being said behind closed doors, right? And sometimes these artists, I'm talking recording artists that you dance for, as well as radio jocks, the egos are very, very sensitive and very, very delicate. And there's that insecurity and there's that jealousy that happens with artists. Like I just remember even when I danced on tour with Paula Abdul, but I wasn't dancing for Paula, some of the things her dancers would say about, you know, you can't have your hair out because she's the only one wearing her hair out. You know, Mariah had rules. And so you'd be surprised how many of these artists are very insecure, even though they want a big person next to them, only one person's allowed to shine. So I don't know what happened behind closed doors, but till this day, we're still friends. And I guess it's better I don't know. So.
Right. No, all day. And Big is solid. Big is definitely solid. And then so you get to the beat, and then what's the vibe with the beat with the other jocks at the station? Are you with everybody over there? And did you enjoy being at the beat? Because I love, that's like one of my favorite parts of my life, is that experience at the beat. There was a lot of turmoil, but it would be the energy was crazy, and I loved it. So what was it like for you at the beat?
Every place that I've worked, my team of producers, associate producers, or interns, where we had the best time. I'm talking from TV to radio. It's always the politics and the big office that messes things up and stresses everybody out with your contract, that makes things muddled and crazy. I love working at the beat, and we're all still friends and brunching and lunching and stuff till this day. And we had nothing but fun. Every day going into the studio was nothing but jokes and laughter, and even like communicating with people and being out in the streets was great. The love was real. Like I wouldn't change it for anything. It was all the best. I wish traditional radio was still like that, you know? So
yeah, no, it's definitely a vibe out here. And then for a while you were doing I don't know, are you still doing a show with Pee-wee?
No, we were doing the Spin Room for like 2 years of podcast. And so we stopped doing that. And then I moved over doing a podcast called The Ruckus with Joe Claire. And then we stopped doing that. And so I'm just really focusing on moving into the director mode, you know, trying to do what started off as a dance documentary is turning into a docuseries. So I'm trying to shop that. We started shooting some stuff before the pandemic. So I'm in shop mode, trying to get a deal so I don't have to spend no more damn money, and I can get this
right
going and tell them stories.
No, great. That's sick. And so have you been approached about doing, like, you got the docuseries coming out, but just an actual biopic about Les?
No, I haven't. So I got to create my own.
No, and it's definitely it's needed, because I think, like, when we think about like iconic dancers, like for the Black community, it's just like it's for everybody. It's you. Do you feel you deserve a motion picture about yourself and your story?
Of course.
Yeah.
I do. I want to be included in those historical conversations when you talk about Debbie Allen and Judith Jameson and, you know, Paula Abdul and Misty Copeland. Like, you can't discount hip hop. I want to be a part of that. And I come from gymnastics and dance on a high level. Like, I want to be part of that history book conversation, that when you Google top dancers, then I'm on the list,
Right. And how do you think history from a mainstream perspective is resonating with Les? Because I think when we talk about dancers, you always hear about J-Lo, and so what do you feel is the reason for that, and how come the celebration of Les is not spoken of on that same level?
I wish I had an answer for you. I can't force the Black girls rocking the BETs to do the Legends Award and give that to me, right? I'd have to do it myself. And I think it depends on what my next big body of work is, right? When an actor finally does a big blockbuster film, you forget that they've been around 20, 30 years, right? And then you start seeing the commercials rerun when they were 7, when they were 12, when they were 15, their first Lifetime movie or after school special and all that stuff comes. You're like, oh, they've been around a long time. And I think that's probably what's going to happen for me. Hopefully, whether it's my documentary that hits or the next project that I'm attached to, and all the other stuff is like, oh, yeah, we have been watching her for the last 30 years, So.
Yeah. No, I think it would be super dope. I actually thought about, I was like, I think if you did a movie, do you know who Brandy Evans is? I think she would be a good Les. She's a dancer also. She's on P-Valley now, but she's a dope ass dancer. And
Brandy, the lead character, Brandy?
I've never watched the show. I just remember her just being super solid. I think she would be a dope Les. And then maybe Robbie Reed casting it. I think that would be sick. I think like your story is so necessary, and I think it goes through so many different directions in terms of hosting, in terms of dancing, in terms of like even doing video games, all your relationships with artists, and then just your perspective, because I think that's one of the biggest things. Where do you feel like the state of dance is right now, and where do you see it going, and how do you feel the next generation should influence the culture?
Well, just a side note to what you said, if Lorianne can have Honey and Jessica Alba play her, then yes, I absolutely, and I'm somebody who ushered in Lorianne, and yes, I deserve my own movie.
You do.
The state of dance is, I think I'm more impressed with the choreography than I am with the dancers. There's no dancers really that kind of move me. Like, I like to watch athletic females who can dance with the guys, who can keep up with the guys or force the guys to keep up with them. Mm-hmm. So there's only like maybe a handful of dancers that I see that have that athleticism. And maybe they show up on So You Think You Can Dance or something like that, where they're a mixture of all genres, can do hip hop, can weave in and out of jazz and contemporary, and still, have that gymnastic background. But as far as like the mainstream dancers that I see in most music videos, outside of like twerking, I'm not impressed. Like, and that's really all I see, right? Everything is just twerking or just kind of basic stuff. There's nobody that has stood out to me. If you remember, there was a time where people knew dancers by name, right? Now you know more of the choreographers than you know the dancers, because there's no dancers that make you feel what we made you feel. So
exactly. And why do you think that transition? What happened to make that transition?
I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. And it's not that the budgets went from big to small. It's not that, the video vixens came in and now we're back to dancers and stuff again. And I'm not saying that. I think the requirement for dancers who are being hired, and I saw this even then too, right? Because the artist always wants to pick the cutie pie that they want on their set. That doesn't make her the best dancer, right? They want the light skin, the long hair, the Latina chick. She's cute, right. She can move well. Right. And of course, choreographers, it's like, no, I need a chick who can get busy, like right. Really dance. And sometimes they don't necessarily make the cut unless you have that power written into your deal as a choreographer. But I think, I can't say that the dancers aren't working hard. There just hasn't been anyone that has brought that it factor, really, especially as a Black female that I've seen come forward. There are dancers I like that are good, and even if you strip me down with my gymnastics, I still think that my athleticism is more recognizable than what I see today.
Absolutely. So if like the dance Olympics came in and for all the marbles and you had to choose one person as your partner, Chris Brown, Omarion, Sierra, Janet Jackson, J-Lo, me, who do you pick?
They would have to be guys. They would have to be Usher, Chris, and Justin Timberlake. And Usher and Chris, because they got gymnastic backgrounds, so we could be back flipping inside and out of our routine. You know what I'm saying?
And Justin Timberlake, I've never known Justin Timberlake as a dancer.
Justin gets busy. Like
Really?
he's somebody who's in the pocket, like for real, for real. I've seen him dance. He, and I think Sierra's dope too. I think Sierra and like Megan Thee Stallion are dope in their lane of like dropping it hot and twerking or whatever. I haven't seen much other versatility from them. Not to say that they couldn't do it, but I haven't seen it to the point where I'm like, I want to share a stage with them. And I think for me, even with Janet, I just like the people who choreograph her stuff. So I just kind of, and it's Janet. Like we did a pleasure principle together, like that. Would, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the Janet thing's gonna happen. We're gonna see the Janet thing. That's gonna happen.
Yeah, and I think Beyonce, I don't think we've seen the maximum dance stuff out of her.
In what sense?
And I get it. She's now a woman after 3 kids, and the body changes and does what it does. I think she could be pushed a little further into what we see from her choreography wise.
And if you were to choreograph a Beyonce video, like how would you do it?
I'd be training her to do some flips for sure.
Okay.
Flips and some floor work.
Heels or no heels?
No heels.
Okay.
I'm a Timberland.
Right.
Some sneakers and let's go. Right. But I can do both. Don't get it twisted. I can throw on some heels and be like, triple time.
That would be sick. A Beyonce, you need to get Les to do a video. That'd be dope. It would be dope. It'd be dope I think it'd make Beyonce look super, super already dope, and it'd be dope for the culture also. Did you ever get a chance to be on were you ever in Living Color at all, or did you ever audition for that?
I auditioned for Living Color. They didn't choose me. Even though I had the bomb audition, and Flex Alexander can tell you too, because he's one of the people who was there assisting with as they were hiring and stuff. And all the local channels interviewed me. I did all these flips around the room, picked up the choreography like it was nothing. And they already knew who they wanted. They already had told Josie she had the job before audition. So it was really a PR thing and them knowing who they wanted. So you can't tell me that I can't dance as good or if not better than the girls on Living Color. But God laughs at the things we plan, because I ended up being on that show with artists that performed at the end. So I was on the show like 4 or 5 times performing on Living Color, also transitioned later on into Rap City. Like that's exactly how it happened. I got denied from Living Color audition, and I was sick about it because I wanted to be on that show. It was national. I'm on Fox. Sick. 3 months later, Rap City falls in my lap, and that was me going, okay. God's rejection is my protection.
He had a plan. He said God was in heaven and said, we're gonna get this woman on Rap City with everybody. It's gonna be good. And then for you right now, in terms of just like things that you're working on and what's next for Les?
Like I said, I'm trying to get this director's thing going. Debbie Allen laid the blueprint on how you transition from a dancer into a producer and an actor and a director, whatever. So, and the crazy thing is that I thought I was going to study journalism in high school, not all the sports medicine stuff that I did. And so when Rap City came around, I was like, that was God going, yeah, I got your journalism. So he brought me back to it doing radio. So, I'm trying to get the same kind of deal that Ryan Seacrest, Carson Daly, Sway, and all of them have. There's no reason why I shouldn't have that kind of deal in the full production space to create content, as well as be like having these interviews like Angie Martinez and so and so. So I'm working with a new team, and hopefully we can create some new some stuff that I can not only get, hold the mic, but have some ownership in and some stake in and all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely going to happen. I don't even like to use the word hope, but just like in time, it's going to happen. So that's always a good thing. So we'll celebrate it when we'll say when it happens. And then and I know it's such a generic question, but there's a lot of women that and men that follow your journey. The things that you've gone through is very much unique in space, right? And so your perspective is obviously something that people can learn from. And so culturally, in terms of what you've learned, and I hate this question, but I like it at the same time, like what advice would you give to somebody trying to get to the next step, not only in dance, but just in life and trying to accomplish their dreams?
One, you got to do the work. I'm somebody who's up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. Like even when you look at what's his name, Mayfield, as arrogant as he is, he gets up and he does the work 3, 4, 5 o'clock while everybody's sleeping, complaining, whining, bitching. You got to do the work because there's somebody out there who's just like Kobe, who's up hours of time working to be the best. And so even when you think or you book a gig, you still have to stay on top of your craft, and you need to be versatile in a little bit of everything. You got to have jazz, you got to have tap, you got to have hip hop. Same thing as if you're like a painter or if you're a producer. You got to know your R&B, your blues, your pop music, your rock music, your all the jazz. Like you have to have your arsenal full. Never stop learning. Read your paperwork. Don't settle for less than what you deserve. Negotiate your stuff. Because there's some people who want to do it just for the job, and then you set a bad standard for yourself. Like, oh, they think that that's what they can pay you as opposed to what you deserve. And right now, dancers are still fighting. Like we didn't have an agency then. And so I was able to really dictate my own terms. And I think some jobs that I did 20 years ago, I made more money than some of the dancers now too. So, the Dancers Alliance need their support. That we front the same kind of brand that supermodels do. They walk up and down an aisle. Naomi's getting $20,000 just to walk up and down the aisle. I bet you they could not switch places with us for 30 minutes in a rehearsal. So why are we not making the same money that they're making? So I'm really hoping that. But as far as advice-wise happens, just stay on your grind, stay focused, say yes to everything, and then learn how to respect the craft by learning the craft. Don't let these social media numbers and thinking that, if you get on a reality show and smacking the bitches, the legacy you want to leave, because that's not the place, that's not where I'm headed. And I've been asked a few times, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not going to damage that, because I know if I punch a bitch in the face on Monday, by Tuesday, I'll have a book deal. But I don't want to sell myself short. So have some time about your work and stuff too.
No, that's absolutely true. And a lot of times people do go that route with it. And I think you're way more valuable to the culture than you knocking motherfuckers out for a book deal. So we don't want to see, we definitely don't want to see that.
Although I feel I might be cute in an orange jumpsuit. I'm not ready for all of that.
Nah, we ain't gonna make that happen. Nah, we gonna keep you classy with no jumpsuits. I don't think nobody want to see no damn legs in no jumpsuit. It'd be a sad day. You would see Living Single come off the air, and we can't sing the song the same way anymore. The whole thing.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. And where can people find you on social?
I am Leslie Segar, LESLIESEGAR, all day, every day, all platforms. And your girl Les, if you see that, that's me too. That's my ratchet page. So I can, curse somebody out.
Turn up.
Or LeslieSegar.com. Just Google me, YouTube me. All my stuff is around.
All right, cool. We got you. And I can't wait for the biopic to come out.